I'm Freya.
And I'm Lydia, and we're from Kirkham Grammar School.
Today we're going to Manchester Dogs Trust to interview some staff and hopefully talk to them about their work.
What do you do if the shelter is full?
So is that in terms of if somebody wants to bring their dog in?
Yeah.
Yeah? So we can obviously get dogs from different avenues. So some of our dogs can come from other places. So maybe another DogsTrust centre if they're struggling to, rehome a particular breed, and we've been rehoming them really well. So DogsTrust Leeds might phone us up and say, can you take this dog? And if we've got absolutely no space, we'll say, yeah, we can, but not till a week on Tuesday, because then we've got this many dogs going home. So we know in advance when our dogs are going home, so we know when our kennel is going to be free. But say if a member of the public wants to come and have their dog, hand their dog over to DogsTrust, then we will put them on the waiting list. So we sort of assess them. I don't know how much Anna's told you about that, but we get them in, meet the dog, just do a few things with them, because obviously some dogs love their owners, but when they're not with their owners, then they might be really unsure of people. So we don't want to, take a dog in and then it be really unhappy in kennels. So say if we meet it and it's all fine, then they'll go on the waiting list, and then basically it's as simple as when we have a kennel, we'll phone them up and say, right, do you want to bring your dog down on Monday or whenever it is that we know we're going to have kennel space, and then they bring their dog in then, so then they hand them over to us and they go into the kennel. So it's just a bit of forward planning really.
So what is there like a maximum amount of time you can keep a dog for?
Not really. As you'll know, DogsTrust never puts a healthy dog down, so it's not a case of, oh, nobody wants it, we're going to put it to sleep. Yeah. It'll be a case of doing different promotions. So you'll see we've got, and maybe they've just changed. We do have a dog of the week. I think it was just Ida, but I'm guessing she's been booked. So to get them a bit more press, put pictures on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. But say, obviously we've only been open since the end of October, so say it got to 6 months down the line, if we had a dog that was quite stressed and had no interest, we might phone up other centres and say, oh, we've got a male staffy that isn't getting much interest. Have you been rehoming male staffies okay? Have you been, things like that. So see which areas are looking for different breeds and stuff, and then maybe we could send them to another centre. So there isn't necessarily, if the dogs are coping, there isn't a maximum amount of time, but otherwise we'll look at moving them to other centres, or even some dogs might only be here a month and get really, really stressed, and if that's the case, then we'll still look at moving them maybe to a centre that's got more fields and is in a quieter area, because we're obviously quite urban here. So no is basically the answer, but that's a little bit more.
And how many animals can you take in at one time?
We've got 56 kennels. Yeah, 56 kennels. So as many dogs as we would put in any of those kennels. So we've got that's our largest kennel. We've got one extra big kennel. So we sometimes have 3 or 4 dogs in there, but most of the other kennels will have 1, 2, or maybe 3. But our usual rate, our average is about 1.5 dogs a kennel, so obviously not literally, but on average, so we've got about as many pairs as we've got singles, so around 90 dogs is what we usually have in, and we're full most of the time, but obviously when dogs go home, that's when you phone people up and get them to bring their dogs and stuff.
In what condition do your dogs normally arrive in? Are they normally pretty well looked after?
It completely depends where they come from, because sometimes it'll just be someone who can't look after, maybe they've lost their job or something, they can't look after the dog anymore, and it's not their fault, and they've looked after the dog really well up until then. The dog's fed, water, been to the vets and everything, and it's really looked after. It's a really happy, healthy dog. But other times maybe when we've had them over from Ireland, then they might have been astray, so they've actually been on the streets and they've taken them in, and then we've got them to rehome them here.
So we've talked a little bit about the RSPCA cases, like Gemma welfare cases, like Charm, who, do you remember the last dog I showed you, who I said Claire knows a lot about? So those dogs that come from those sort of backgrounds, obviously they don't necessarily have physical problems wrong with them, but they can have quite severe behaviour problems because they've had a traumatic start in life. So sometimes that takes a lot more work than just a dog coming in that's a bit too thin or has skin problems. So it's actually the behaviour problems that can cause the biggest issue for us.
And what veterinary care do you give to the dog?
So do you remember what we said about all the dogs when we went in the vet suite? Do you remember?
Yeah.
So they all get neutered. They all get and what treatment do they get? Flea treatment, And what do they need once a year? Do you remember I mentioned upstairs?
Vaccination.
Yeah, so they need that, so they all get vaccinated. So every single dog. And I also mentioned in there that some dogs have got bar. Yeah.
And what is-
Sorry.
Oh, go on.
Just gonna say, basically anything they need. So sometimes I might go out to the kennels and be like, oh, this dog's lying in its bed, it's not very happy, it's whimpering. Then we have the vet here 3 days a week, so then we can book them in on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday to go and see the vet. So, and the vet nurse is here Monday to Friday as well, so we might just radio her and she'll come and have a quick look. And if it's urgent, then we can take them straight to the vets in Ashton. Or we, you know, if it's just maybe they're a little bit quiet, but nothing too bad, they're still eating and drinking, then we'll just put them in to see the vet. So, and then they get another check just before they go home, because we don't want to send a dog home and then it suddenly's really poorly and the new owners didn't know anything about it. So we always just have like a check over the heart and breathing and stuff like that before they go home.
And what is generally the busiest time of year for rehoming dogs?
January and February. Why do you think that?
After Christmas.
Uh-huh. So not just because people sometimes get a puppy for Christmas and then get rid of it when it gets older, but also people get a new dog for Christmas and then get rid of the old dog.
Yeah.
So nearly every dog charity will tell you that's their busiest time.
Are you noticing a rise in the amount of dogs needing to come into the centre?
Well, we've only been open since October, so we've only got figures since October. But I think it went up a little bit during the financial crisis. In general, those stray dogs. So the data that I've got is the stray dog numbers. Do you remember when I said 100,000 stray dogs? Okay, so that's the data that we go off, and that went up a little bit in about 2001 or 2002, and it's dropped again. So we're back to where we were maybe 10 years ago. So it does come in waves, but if you look over sort of since they've been doing the stray dog survey, it's slowly going down a little bit, and I think there was a 1% decrease from last year.
I haven't seen.
Yeah, so it is slowly getting worse, but obviously when that recession happened, it went up. So a lot of people got rid of their dogs then.
And do you have any like fundraising events of any kind?
Loads.
Do loads of things all the time. Like I think there's some adverts out on the tables for like bring your dog and we'll wash it and stuff like that for £5. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously if we do things like that all throughout the year, we have the Christmas fair, which raised a lot of money. So we'd only been open about 2 months, I think, 6 weeks, not long. And we had like something like 2,000 people come into the centre on the normal Sunday, which normally we get about 100 people coming in. So we've got, if we like generate publicity around them, then they can be really popular. We've got the summer fair as well. What do we call it?
Fun Day on the
Day.
26th of July. So that's
a bit of a plug there.
So yeah, that's it. I'll give you, hopefully you've got flyers about that. Yeah, so we have a huge day at Heaton Park where people can bring their own dog and have fun and do agility and those sort of things.
Are there any more plans for like more centres?
Not now. This was sort of the last one for a while. So what DogsTrust are concentrating on doing, this is number 20.
21, I think.
Is it 21?
I
Okay,
think
well done.
No more than
But that's because there's 22 education officers, so there's 21 centres. So this was number 21, and what they're going to do, so they might in the future, but what they're focusing on doing now is, remember, like I said, Merseyside was built 10 years ago, so that was built in quite early days for DogsTrust. So what they're doing now is they're rebuilding those ones. So upgrading, exactly.
Some of the kennel designs, when they were built, were obviously like brilliant kennel designs, but now we know more. Actually, it's a little bit more stressful for the dogs. So obviously, like here, we're lucky with the space we have, but you know, none of the dogs face each other, and we've got like the barriers up and stuff like that. But you know, 10, 20 years ago, when some of these ones were built, they didn't know that. So it's just improving the other ones. At the minute is what they're going to focus on, but yeah.
So do you know how many volunteers you've got in this centre?
That's Claire's job.
Yeah, I'm the volunteer coordinator. So at this very moment in time, we have about 55 volunteers, and they're all regular. So I sort of do like a rota and stuff to make it fairly structured, just so we know who's coming in when. So on our Wednesday when we're closed to the public, it's a really good day to get dogs on off-site walks. It's really nice for the dogs, and we learn so much more about them. They might see a horse and completely freak out.
So, because you know what we're talking about, we've only got the compounds, and I said sometimes we can take them off-site. So we're not able to do that much because with just our staff, we can't do it with the volunteers. It means that it gives us that extra people to be able to do those sort of things. Like Claire says, is really important for the dog.
Is there a message you would like to give to anyone thinking of getting a dog?
To think very, very seriously about everything that you've seen, everything you've learned the dogs need, and to really think about the numbers of unwanted dogs that we talked about upstairs. Because there are around about 10,000 dogs per year being put down, and those are almost all of those dogs are dogs that people have got that they've decided they don't want anymore. So the serious message is you think about all those things that dogs need, and you give them everything and you make sure that you're able to give a dog everything that it needs, all the money it requires, all the time it requires, 2 walks a day. And if you can't give them that, then you shouldn't get a dog in the first place. You should get a Teddy.
that you can sometimes play with.
Yeah.
I think mine is basically the same as that. And obviously another one of our messages is a dog is for life. So say if you're going to get a puppy, think, okay, so I know it's only a rough average, but just think, right, I know it's a staffy puppy and it could live up to the age of 15, 16. So what do I think I'm going to do in my life in the next 15, 16 years? Well, actually, I wanted to emigrate to America and I wanted to do this, that and the other.
I want to have a baby, I want to get a full-time job.
So you need to think about, I want to go and live in a high-rise flat in London. All of those decisions that you want to do, is a dog going to fit in with those? So it really is thinking, actually what, not that you want them to die or anything, but in that time that, if their life, if they have a long, happy, healthy life, you need to think, is it gonna fit in for all of that time? Not just, well, at the minute I work from home and, I've got loads of time and I've got no other pets and things like that. You need to think in the long term, because that's often, sometimes we get dogs coming in that are 14 years old, and obviously people had thought about for the, the first few years, if the dog fitted into their lifestyle, but then something changes, so you just need to plan for every eventuality, because it's the dog that's going to suffer, having to go through the stress of being rehomed and stuff. So
I think the overall advice is a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. That is our overall advice. It's the most important
How much
thing.
did you say a dog costs its lifetime?
So it's £2,000 on average in its lifetime. So if it lives 12 years, it's £24,000. So this is an estimate. So smaller dogs tend to cost a little bit less because they eat slightly less amount of food. They need smaller stuff. So like a smaller bed costs less. But on average, it's £2,000 per year. So like Claire said, some dogs can live up to 17 sometimes. So your math's probably better than mine. So that's 17 times 2, which is £34,000.
Which is an amazing amount of money.
Yeah. It's like the cost of a house, isn't it? It's like a small house.
Half a house.
House in certain areas.
But yeah, that's the main advice. It's just thinking about the long term. Some people say, I really want a dog and I've got the time for it, and you'll say, oh yeah, brilliant. You're going to think about insuring them, and they say, oh, I can't afford insurance. Well, if you can't afford the insurance, then what happens? If the dog gets poorly, then will you be able to afford the treatment for the dog to get poorly? So it's just so many considerations. The time, like what's going to happen in the future, the money. There's just a million and one things that you need to consider. So just people taking the time and not just getting a dog on a whim, not just thinking, oh, it would be nice, and going out and buying a dog. It's it's a lot more to it than that. This is Sam. Sam is about 3 or 4 years old, and he's a male greyhound.
Okay, and how long has he been in the centre?
He's been in the centre quite a few weeks now. He's one of our ones that has been here a little bit longer, so probably, I think about December time that he came in. I didn't check that bit.
Okay, and do you know why he was taken into the centre?
He came originally from Ireland, so I don't know if Anna's talked about some of the different places we get our dogs from. So he was a stray in Ireland. So in Ireland, it's similar to England. If you find a stray dog, it goes to the pound or the dog wardens for 5 days, and then after the 5 days, that's a chance for the owner to come forward and claim them, and then they can be put up, go to rehoming. And then Sam actually came over here to get rehomed, so that's how we've got him.
Could I just interject there? So do you know what happens to a lot of the dogs after those 5 days? Sorry, I realised. So do you remember what I mentioned about those stray dogs in Britain? So around about 10%, what happened to them? Yeah, so by law, councils can put the dogs down after 7 days. So if they've given them 7 days, and in Ireland it's 5 days, nobody comes forward to claim them, then they get put down. So that's why it's sort of vital that there's dogs trusts who don't put down dogs.
How come you came all the way to Manchester then?
I think we've got a centre over in Ireland, and he'd been transferred there, and then they just sent him over here just because I don't really know, maybe.
Just to share out the rehoming, because there's people here who might want the dogs there, so we sort of share dogs. So dogs that we think we might be able to rehome where Ireland might struggle, we'll take some of their dogs, other centres will take some of our dogs.
So when I was saying at the table before, we do think, if Leeds phoned us up and said, oh, we've got loads of staffies and you've been rehoming loads and we can't rehome any, it's like that really. It's just, so it seems like a long way to come, but obviously we've been so busy since we opened, we've rehomed quite a lot of greyhounds, so it would give him more of a chance of getting a home.
Have you had any interest in wanting to adopt?
Yeah, a few people have asked about him, but sometimes with ex-racing greyhounds, they often don't like small furry animals. So we know that he's an ex-racer, and so they often can't be homed with cats or smaller dogs. So a lot of the people who come through say, oh, I've got a cat, and so sometimes we'll do a cat test, we'll take the dog out to the property, but because of Sam's background we wouldn't do that, because he doesn't mix well with smaller dogs. Like I say, just because of what he's been trained to do. Obviously they chase small furries around the track, and so yeah. So we have had a few people interested in him, but unfortunately he's not always suitable. It's just finding the right home.
Yeah. And does he have any special needs?
We were talking about the con feeding, because obviously he eats really quickly, but no, not particularly otherwise.
Other than not homing with small furries.
Yeah.
So you couldn't really go with cats or any rabbits or hamsters or ferrets or chinchillas or anything small or furry.
He does have he has like back skin just down the backs of his legs, so that's what he meant as well. We talk about veterinary care, so he has like cream on those and stuff, and the vet checks him regularly to make sure it's improving. Make sure he's not getting to it and making it worse. So yeah, you can see there and stuff. So in terms of that, he's on medication for that as well.
Does he get on well with other dogs?
He does get on with large dogs, so he's been kennelled like with other greyhounds, but not really smaller dogs. So we would probably just rehome him on his own with no other pets really. See inside his ear, so it will have meant something. Good boy.
So what I said about a lot of racing greyhounds are put down after 3 years. Obviously, some people don't put them down; they decide to just abandon them. So he was a racer, and somebody maybe he wasn't very good at it, or somebody thought he was too old, and they just left him on the street.
So he's just available for rehoming.
Yeah. If they were traced like the owner, would they be sent to jail?
Pardon?
There's not really any law that would prosecute somebody for abandoning a dog unless they'd broken the Animal Welfare Act. So dog law is very, very complicated. If somebody was mistreating a dog, there's something called the 5 freedoms, which you might want to look up when you get back to school, and that's what the animal protection law called the Animal Welfare Act is based on. And those 5 freedoms are, I'm going to test me and Claire because I don't know anything about. So it's freedom and protection from injury and illness, so taking it to the vet, suitable diet, somewhere suitable to live, so that would mean bedding or somewhere not shelter, somewhere warm, freedom to express normal behaviour. So what would that be for a dog? So it's like being able to run, exactly, being able to dig, do all the things that come naturally to it.
So for example, if you just kept a dog in a cage, but you did give it veterinary care, you did give it food, you did give it water, you gave it all of those things, but you're inhibiting its natural behaviour, that's still against the Animal Welfare Act basically. So it's not enough just to give it the things to stay alive. You have to be able to, has to be able to exhibit its normal behaviour as well.
And the last one is need for companionship, isn't it? I think, the 5th one, So a dog needs companionship. So it doesn't have to be another dog, but it needs human companionship. So leaving a dog for hours and hours on its own, you're breaking Animal Welfare Act. So if somebody's abandoned a dog and the dog's healthy and we don't have any proof that they've broken any of those 5 freedoms, they can't really be prosecuted. If that dog causes, it is very, very complicated. If that dog then caused an accident and we traced the owner, then they could be prosecuted because the dog is their property and it's public liability. But sorry, it's going to get really complicated if I try to explain, but in actual fact it's not a criminal offence to necessarily abandon a dog on its own.
But generally I think in terms of say like the racing industry, if it was traced back to like the breeder and stuff, then I'm not sure if they can actually prosecute, but I know that they get in trouble basically. There's like the Greyhound Association and stuff, they monitor, say if it was all from the same like racing track that all of these stray dogs were appearing, then they would do something about it, maybe not in terms of the law, but maybe in terms of their like accreditation, as being, like licensed breeders or licensed racers and stuff.
Because they could have their licence taken off them, so they couldn't breed greyhounds anymore.
Yeah, basically, so it's in terms of their livelihood that it would make a difference, so maybe not in terms of going to jail.
The other law, if the dog was dangerously out of control, so if the dog bit someone and we traced the owner, then the owner could be prosecuted. There's very little law that actually protects animals, really. It's usually when it's something to do with people. There is the Animal Welfare.